everyone, it's Charlton. So I want to continue to talk about the Mollie Tibbetts case, and it's just a mishmash of questions, unanswered questions that people have in the comments, and I agree that they're puzzling, and a lot of them match up with my own questions. So I'm just going to kind of throw these up on the chalkboard and see what it looks like, and also maybe present an idea that I've had for some time. Not necessarily exactly about this particular instance, but on several instances, starting with Vegas. It really began with Vegas, this idea. I have lots of ideas, and I say I'm so sure of this and so sure of that, and then I'm completely wrong. I'm wrong most of the time. I really am. But whichever. This is an idea I've had about what could be behind some of these murders, vicious murders, mass murders, and there doesn't seem to be a clear motive, And when somebody that didn't have a whole lot of criminal history does something completely out of character, or just their previous life didn't support why they did it, So, and I've had a theory for some time. I've kind of kept a file of these strange instances, and there seemed to be a commonality, that I saw, All right. We'll see if I present that at the end. It's not that exciting. It's not. But it's what I thought. All right, so the questions, the unanswered questions. Well, one thing that somebody pointed out is that this is not a Chevy Malibu. It's a Chevy Impala. And multiple people have said that in the comments. Forgive me, I don't remember exactly. I know at least two people have mentioned that, And I believe they're correct. I don't know anything about automotive, but I think Chevy Impala and Chevy Malibu look very similar. I brought up their pictures, and I take those people at their word that it is a Chevy Impala. I think maybe there's two different vehicles here, possibly. I believe this picture here is a Chevy Malibu, where he's in this picture. I can't remember how recent this is. Based on the seats, I brought up seats from the Malibu and the I'm not going to do it here. It's an outstanding question, but seats from the Malibu and the Impala, and this seemed to be Malibu, But and there's still the question of whether, because it was reported by Fox that the vehicle, the Malibu that was seen on the surveillance video that they tracked back to him, wasn't registered in his name. Now I don't know if that's registered in his fake name that he used to get his with his employment records, or in a completely different owner. We don't know that. I didn't see any follow-up reporting on it, and so that's just kind of outstanding there. There was the question of the laptop in Mollie's laptop at the boyfriend's house, because it was just reported. The police never confirmed this. That's a family member had gotten it from the police that that she was on her laptop late into the night or into the evening on July 18th, the night she went missing. So, a deer just went cruising by. So, but that remains a big question mark. But again, the police never confirmed that. They basically got that secondhand from a source to one of the family members who had told that to a reporter. Personally, I think that that's probably just a communication breakdown. That I don't know. I just don't think that the computer history actually did show her being at the boyfriend's house that night. But that's still a big question, I guess. All right. Another thing that's been talked about. Two different people brought this up, and it makes perfect sense that it's impossible that the body could have been there that entire time in the heat in that cornfield without drawing some kind of attention to it from nature, and basically you would have crows and animals, buzzards flying above it, zeroing in on a dead body, and I agree that's definitely perplexing. I have a very crazy idea on how that may actually still have been in that cornfield the entire time. I believe it was. I believe he brought it there that night. I do. I believe this all happened in one night, and he brought it to that cornfield late into the night and disposed of it there. And he did something to mask it so that basically would keep nature's critters away, and at least to some extent. And I don't know. It's kind of strange. I was thinking about this incident with Primal Fear, which is very similar to his story. He very well may be schizophrenic. I mean, it's very possible. There are schizophrenics, and there are severe schizophrenics in the world. There just is. And and he's the perfect age. That doesn't mean he's schizophrenic because he's 24, and this is when. So, but it's very possible that he is. But when he told his story of basically blacking out and then coming to right before he disposes of the body, which is very convenient, agreed, majorly agreed. But nonetheless, it made me think of this movie, Primal Fear. I'm a big movie buff. This is beside the point, but I am huge movie buff. I mean, I'm sorry to say I get half of my history from movies. It's not good, but I do. But it made me think of the other possibility of how he may have disposed of Mollie's body, and by hiding the scent and hiding animals from attention being drawn to it. Which I don't know if you've ever seen this movie. It's called the Three Burials of Melquiades Estrada with Tommy Lee Jones. And it's about, he's a rancher, he's a horse rancher somewhere, I think in Arizona or New Mexico, one of them. And his buddy is Mexican, who he works with, and he gets shot and gets killed by a sheriff's deputy. It's an accident and all, but long story short, he told his friend if he was ever killed, he would bring him back home and bury him at home. And so he makes the person who shot him come with him and help him bring the body all the way to Mexico to bring it to its home, to his hometown, to bury him in his hometown. And on the way there, because it takes many days, they go by horseback, they cross the border, they're running from law enforcement. The body is going through decomposition, and he runs into a blind man who thinks he has a deer, and he asks him, "How can you do have anything I could cure the meat with or preserve the body with?" And he tells him, "I've got some antifreeze if you want." And that's what he uses to basically to sort of embalm the body and preserve it a little bit. And he puts a hose in its mouth and feeds it down into him and rubs it all over his body and his face. Antifreeze. I know it's and I'm just trying to. I mean, it's just the thought I had. I'm definitely not trying to show any disrespect to to this person, but I'm just, as an answer to that question, is it possible that is how that he saw the same movie? I know it's crazy, but I think he might have been a hunter. I mean, a lot of people in Iowa are hunters. He's got pictures of his guns. I don't know if they're pictures of guns, on his Facebook page. I don't know if those are his exact guns or if he's a hunter or what, but I don't know. I mean, I was just, the thought came to my head of, I don't even have the map up. The attack happens on 385th Avenue, at the 1900 block, all the way down where it's just a few farmhouses and lots of cornfields, high, tall corn stalks. That's where the attack happens, which is, it's hard to fathom, it's hard to picture, but I think that's where it did. I don't know if he pulled her into those cornfields and he stabbed her to death. It's gruesome and brutal, but then there's blood everywhere, goes to the car wash is closed. Goes to the TA, the Travel Centers of America truck stop, which is open all night. I don't know when he goes there. I don't know his exact path. Picks up some antifreeze. I know it's a bizarre idea, but it is what I thought, And knowing that he could use that to hide the scent, pour it all over the body, and using whatever means, at this point, all things, he's already killed her in a brutal, gruesome way. It's gonna do anything to hide it, including doing that or pouring it down her throat and stuff like that. So I'm just saying, as a way of, could that be an explanation of why she sat in that cornfield for so long in extreme heat and never was detected by cadaver dogs and animals flying overhead, crows and so forth. All right. Enough said there. So that was another idea I had. I mean, I will say there were moments very early on. Part of it was that where I didn't think he did this, but he's admitted it. I mean, even though he says he blacked out from here to there, why would he admit this if he wasn't the person? I mean, that's really hard to get over. It's almost impossible. I mean, why in goodness God's name would he admit to being the person? Bring them to the body if he wasn't the person behind it. Before I get to that exactly, I mean, I don't. A couple other things I wanted to point out and just bring up. They're sort of just miscellaneous details. I remember during the press conferences, one of the press conferences, there was the person who's the representative for the entire state of Iowa for missing persons, whatever department of the state of Iowa, that oversees that, a female, blonde female. And she was at two different press conferences. One, because people were getting upset that so much attention was being given just to one girl when there's been many, many other persons in the state, and people were saying that the numbers were elevated and that Iowa's got some kind of issue. There's a lot of missing persons, and people were starting to think there was a danger to the public and so forth. And so she was part of the press conference to put things in perspective, make people understand that the numbers are not out of line, that many of these missing persons reported, eventually turn up and they're runaways and so forth. And the statistics were not out of whack whatsoever. But I noticed in her first press conference versus her next press conference, her demeanor changed immensely, okay? And basically she was, in the final press conference where they announced the website, which was the 13th, 14th, her demeanor in the background. She never spoke. She looked completely distraught. And it was almost as if she had been made aware that Mollie had died. And I thought that at the time. I didn't think that after the fact. I thought, wow, she was told something that made her change. Just an observation. I mean, I could go through to show you, to prove it, but here's where she speaks, basically to sort of set the record straight.
We really hope that this.
The picture's very bad. It's very blurry. But just to give you an example, and then where she is here in this press conference, and this is where they're announcing the website and asking people to look out for individuals who might have changed their facial hair, or just think something's changed about them. Did they wash their car?
Ships with. Often, there are individuals who are unknowingly associated with the offender of a crime and may be in a position to observe behavioral changes in that person.
And it's hard for me to show you the entire thing to really illustrate that something changed from the time where she's at the press conference talking about Iowa's missing persons to this one, and I thought she was informed that Mollie had died. That they were, because I do think that the authorities knew she had been killed and had found the body, and they were trying to catch the perpetrator. And there might even give an example of finding the red shirt. You have the press conference where the family was up that day. They really were. They were excited to announce a reward with Crime Stoppers. They would seem to have some hope. And then the very next day, they seemed completely dejected after the red shirt, didn't seem to materialize into anything. But it's very possible, even at that stage, that the family was not being made aware of whatever the authorities, very possible, very likely, because, at that stage, the authorities were still, they were potential suspects, people in the family, close to the family, and they weren't aware of what the authorities were doing. All right, so I don't want to get off too much on this, and it's too, I can't basically reproduce the entire thing in a video, so hopefully I made my point there. I'll come back to, I really did at his court appearance, Cristhian Rivera, where basically they're resetting his bond from $1 million to $5 million. When he had the other attorney, Alan Richards, I believe his name is, the guy who hated Trump, and in his demeanor during that court appearance did strike me as odd. It really did, it could be a cultural difference that absolutely could be, playing an impact here. But it just almost seemed like, and another person gave me their opinion. This other person gives very good opinions and is a very unbiased person, and just because she doesn't have politics and, it's basically, it's my wife. And she wondered whether or not, he was the man because of just his behavior in court, and even before she told me that, I had the same feeling myself. Like there wasn't a whole lot of remorse there, and also there was times where I was angry, but there's also times where I thought maybe it's just not, he doesn't have remorse because he didn't do it. Again, I come back to the fact that he admitted to at least, before and after and disposing of the body. So he's more or less admitted to the crime, but forgets what happened in between. It's almost impossible to overcome that without it being him. So, but the other possible, an absolute possible explanation is that, that he truly is a severe schizophrenic, and it's a very big possibility. Which brings me to this photo again. When I saw this photo, I really did, I was like, oh, wow, it fit into a pattern that I've been following of these crimes where somebody who didn't have criminal history before does something that's just a heinous, vicious crime, and people can't explain the motive, starting with Las Vegas, all right? Now, here's this crazy idea I have that, and it's about real estate and homes that basically were built, 80 years ago, 100 years ago. And it's lead paint, lead paint. But it's not just lead paint. It's all these homes reaching a certain time, of decay, of decomposition, in the actual materials that were used building the home. And I don't know it's necessarily lead. It could be some other substance, But it's all happening, coming together at once, where they're all reaching a certain time at the same time, starting 100 years ago, 100 years forward, and, multiple things happening at once, where you have this, this unforeseen coincidence of a real estate bust and boom, or boom and bust, and then, and then a recovery, and tons of sort of amateur real estate investors out there demoing homes and, doing things all at the same time, when this is, the other factor of these homes reaching a certain period in their decay life, multiple things happening at once. That people getting, having toxic, prolonged exposure to something like lead, okay, and not just but breathing it, so that it's actually getting into your brain. Not ingesting it like in the water supply in Flint, Michigan, where it's being filtered through your digestive system, but something that's going directly into your brain, and, toxic substances getting in there, and even not even being able to be completely filtered out, even if time goes by, So, there's certain levels, in my opinion, that once they get in there, you can't get them out, and they're stuck in there. This is crazy talk, but this is my thought, okay? And when I saw this house with the home, 100-year-old home, and the paint peeling off the wood, the home built solidly of wood, inside and out, I guarantee you the inside has paint like that too. It may not be peeling, and that's probably hidden by drywall, whatever, or lath and plaster, whatever it is. But who knows what the inside looks like? And I know he didn't live in there, but he probably did at some point before the trail. I don't know. Just made me think of that, And part of I've looked it up. It's not like I just have. There really are studies, and I can go after. I'm going to do it very quickly. I'm going to go through my file of incidents of, that sort of fit to this pattern, starting with Las Vegas. You had the Austin bomber. The guy was putting bombs on porches. He lived in a home that him and his father had spent the entire last year demoing and redoing. Okay. And he had some mental illness, but nothing to the extent of this, And that's a fact. That was reported, There's other incidents, too, believe me, that don't necessarily fit this exactly, but in the Las Vegas shooter, Stephen Paddock, that was his business. He spent, he bought old, dilapidated buildings, with 20 and 30 units in it, and completely gutted the entire things and redid a lot of it and did a lot of it himself. And that's the kind of stuff, the work you do yourself. I know we do real estate, me and my family, and we've done a few homes, but that's the work the amateur does. Someone who can't actually do the renovations. You do the demo. Believe me, that's where I do the demo work. And there's some skill to there too. It's not just a matter of, but a lot of times you don't take precautions and you're being exposed to toxic levels of stuff, but it doesn't just happen like that. It's something that happens gradually because you're breathing it and your levels are just slowly going up, I don't have time to go through every single one, and I don't want to make this video. I don't want to destroy this video because it seems. But here's the studies. All right. I mean, this is from Columbia University. Mice engineered with human gene for schizophrenia and exposed to lead during early life exhibited behaviors and structural changes in their brains consistent with schizophrenia. Scientists of Columbia University, Mailman School of Public Health, and the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine say their findings suggest a synergistic effect between lead exposure and genetic risk factor, and open an avenue to better understanding the complex gene environment interactions that put people at risk for schizophrenia and other mental disorders. But it's with lead. I mean, that's and this is, I think, reporting for similar thing. Research points to a relationship between lead exposure and schizophrenia and raises questions about other environmental toxins. I mean, the world has always had crazy people in it, okay? And I don't mean to be disrespectful. I met people with severe mental illness. I'm just saying. So, it could be that just today, now that we see everything in this world of constant information where we're plugged into all things all the time, now we're just seeing it. So that's very possible. And this is always, you just have the law of large numbers. You're going to have, when you have hundreds of millions of people, tens of millions of people, you're going to have people that, do insanely, bad things, and because they have severe mental illness, but there is this thought I had, and let me just go through it. The Austin bomber. I mean, that's a fact. I don't know if you remember the guy with the blonde wig, okay, who was leaving packages on people's porches and just killing people, random people, for no reason, And he came from a fairly decent home. And like I said, he was living in a home that him and his parents probably bought for him, and him and his father had spent the last year, I think, gutting it and redoing it. To the best of my knowledge. I don't have time to go into everything. There was another, and this one didn't, I don't know this person's background. I don't know but it was a retired person who was actually a retired law enforcement person, okay? And he and his daughter worked in law enforcement. I think his son-in-law worked in law enforcement.
Brandon Wilson. Can you tell me what happened today? Well, I was sitting in there. I was about to walk up there and check on my
tables. Come on. Computer's completely locking up because it's hot out here.
Next thing I know, I saw a white
and
fly right past
I got so many things.
I saw tables, chairs, cups, everything fly, and it was really loud. Did you see people hurt? Yeah, I saw there was.
I want to keep going. So, I mean, this story, I just had a feeling this guy, after he retired, for some reason, started maybe buying a home. And I have no clue of this, but it was just such a strange situation where a person who had no history of this, he was a former law enforcement person, but for some reason, right after he retired, he started suffering from mental illness. And people said he completely changed. And he just became a different person. And on this day, he was going to brunch with his family, and he leaves the restaurant, goes to the parking lot, gets in his, I think, Jeep Cherokee, and drives it into the restaurant, into the building, killing his own daughter and killing a couple people. But I just had this thought that maybe he had, in his retirement, started a project of, investing in real estate. I don't know that for a fact, but I got to rush this along because my time is limited. The dude who shot the doctor, the Bush doctor, and I think it was is that Austin, Texas? They took a long time to find him. He had a real estate brokerage, company, that he had started. Now that, I mean, I don't know that he's demoing homes, but there was this guy, and this was a crazy incident where he's fighting with law enforcement on the side of the road here. He was totally insane, and the law enforcement eventually, they tased him, and that didn't stop, and eventually ended up killing him. His family had a real estate business, all right? I'm cruising through these. And they said he was on PCP, you know. PCP, schizophrenia. I've seen studies on that PCP actually creates symptoms that are identical to schizophrenia. And I don't know if they tested him for PCP, but or if they just came up with that assumption because he also had a drug habit and was probably smoking weed, whatever. I don't know if they just came to that conclusion. All right. And there's a couple other random ones. The Waffle House shooter, he worked for a crane demolition company, you know, demolition. I don't know. That was my idea, and that's the end of this video. Because my computer's completely heating up, and I'm pretty much done saying what I wanted to say anyways. Well, thanks for watching my videos. Please subscribe to my channel. Give me a like down below. I'll see you in the next video. Later, man.